lefty?
Lefty or righty?
That thumb is enormous.
Look at that.
My hands feel girly now. What the hell? So guys, in the new year, in the first week, I have an app collaboration I'm working on, releasing bodybuilding fitness programs. But what I'm most excited about is the arm wrestling specific training programs. For all those who are on the fence about getting into arm wrestling, don't know how to start, how to begin training for it besides table practice, this is your answer, coming in just a few short weeks. I'm super pumped about it. And in addition to that, there's going to be an exercise library for both the bodybuilding programs and the arm wrestling programs. Every single exercise has been recorded, documented, so you can easily browse the library and see exactly how I want you to perform the exercise. So this is coming very, very soon, and we're retiring the old teampushtherecord.com site. All this information, all these programs, and the exercise library will be available on the app. More information coming soon. So stay tuned. Again, the app is releasing in January. I've combined the knowledge of all the great pro arm wrestlers who have stopped by in Dubai into this app, into these arm wrestling specific training programs. I'm super excited, and I can't wait to share with you guys. Welcome back to the channel. Here we are at Benos, the best bodybuilding gym in Dubai, with the GOAT of arm wrestling, John Brzenk.
Thanks, Larry.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of the channel today, coming to Dubai and participating in King of the Table 2.
Glad to be here. Excited.
Awesome. First time in Dubai, right?
First time.
Awesome. And you just got in last night, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, just going to do a quick interview today. I have a few questions for John. And the first being, when did you get into arm wrestling? Because I think it's been nearly, 30 years now that you've been involved with the sport?
Yeah, 30, more than 30, probably we're really going back 44 years. I remember arm wrestling when I was I actually ended up breaking my arm wrestling a buddy of my dad's when I was 13 years old, but arm wrestling in grade school.
Okay.
And then progressing, my dad got in the sport, and so I kind of grew up understanding the more professional side of it with the regulations and the tables and that, and started arm wrestling, going to competitions with him. 17, 18 years old, I think at 18 I won my first world championship.
Okay, here's my next question.
and here we are, 37 years later, still doing it. Crazy.
Oh yeah, 37 years. So about 40 plus years?
40 plus years, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Organized arm wrestling, yeah.
That's what's so interesting to me about this sport is that 20, 30, even 40 years from now, I could still be arm wrestling, and hopefully, like you, still kicking ass.
Yeah, well, with a few aches and pains, so you can still do it. Everybody can still do it, yeah.
Well, I got some aches and pains now, so what else is new?
Right.
And I suppose you already answered it, but when did you realize that you were like something special in the sport?
Oh, probably when I started beating guys that my dad couldn't beat. Early age, 17, 18. It happened for me really quickly because I started at such a young age. So I became a man while participating in the sport of arm wrestling. My progression was really, really big. But by the time I was 18, 19, I knew that I was different than most.
I see, because I have an uncle that when I was 19 or 18 or so, I would always challenge him to an arm wrestle. And he's a skinny guy, 6 foot, maybe 180 pounds soaking wet, right. And he would just comfortably beat me every time.
Tear you up, huh?
Yeah, and
something to do with those tendons. Those old guys, sometimes those farmers or ranchers can have some gnarly ass, big, thick tendons that can do some damage on the arm wrestling table. That's what it is. Arm wrestling it's a strength sport, yes, but it's not like weightlifting. You have to have the tendons and the bones and the ligaments all hardened from participation to be good at it. So it's funny how some people are born to be arm wrestlers and some struggle.
Yeah, I hope my struggle is nearing its end and I can start
right.
flourishing and start blossoming. But next question would be what is your greatest achievement in the sport until now?
Greatest achievement? I've got so many. Early years was just beating my dad, then beating a guy named Johnny Walker, winning over the top in '86 was a huge achievement. And it just kept getting better and better as the years passed. Recently, participating in the Zloty Tour tournaments and pulling the international competition like Denis Saplinkov and what have you. But yeah, there's a dozen achievements throughout the years that I could say, oh yeah, that was huge for me. That was big.
I suppose the first
all
one
memorable,
beating your dad,
all enjoyable. Yeah, the big one was beating my dad without having to use two hands.
I can imagine how sweet that must have felt.
Yeah. To beat guys that he couldn't beat, that was always rewarding to come back to the table and say, that guy was easy. I don't know why you struggled against him, Dad.
Especially at only 17 or 18.
Right.
That's awesome. And was there any point in time during your career where, I know you have a career as mechanic, or you work with cars?
Airline mechanic for Delta for 37, 38 years now. Yeah.
Airline mechanic.
Yeah.
Okay. And was there ever a point in time during your arm wrestling career that you were able to make a living solely from arm wrestling? Was the money ever good enough?
Sadly enough, I spent way too much money to have that be the case. There was occasions, like over the top, where there was a big prize to be had in arm wrestling, but nothing that would satisfy me to sustain me as an official career. So I had to have a regular job. But I kind of went into that field because of my arm wrestling. I knew the biggest expense that I would have for arm wrestling would be the travel expense. So that's kind of the key reason, one of the reasons I got into the airline industry. Not that I was ever, a great mechanic, but I thought, that's be fun and exciting, and I'd be able to fly and do what I want to do with the arm wrestling.
So then you're very well traveled, and you've seen most of the world.
Yeah, that's one of the huge benefits that I've had, and I think a lot of contributes to my success is that I've actually gone out there and I've had the experience and I've traveled and I've pulled with the international guys, and many years went by where I'd pull a tournament in the United States every other weekend, just because I was able to. So just being able to be on that competitive level and have referees set you up and doing the ready goes, I think that's even a step beyond just the weekly practices that helped me.
Absolutely. And how do you train? Like, do you believe in weight training for arm wrestling?
I don't believe in weight training. I'm leaning towards maybe believing into it a little bit more now with the specialized devices that they have, the handles and the cables and things more that will cross over to the arm wrestling. But I'm not a big believer in squatting and benching and deadlifting as something that's really going to help with the table strength. But for me, it's always been about the arm wrestling. I've always developed my ability and strength through repetition of arm wrestling on the arm wrestling table. Very, very little outside of strength was built outside of the arm wrestling.
And which sport, if you had to choose one, which sport do you think would have the most natural carryover into arm wrestling? Maybe like a rock climber, perhaps?
Rock climbers, super strong hands. But those guys are endurance guys. A rock climber that was a sprinter. I always thought the baseball players were actually better at arm wrestling than football players were. Just because their hand and wrist and forearms, a lot of baseball players. There was a tournament that was held in Las Vegas every year, and they would have the professional football guys pulling it, and then they would have professional baseball. And I always thought the professional baseball players were better suited for arm wrestling. Fast, big strong hands, forearms.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense on paper. And did your career as an aero mechanic have any carryover into the sport? Like, how physically labor intensive was it?
No, I got a lot of rest. My job, my job wasn't very physical. So, as far as being able to recuperate after a hard tournament, my job was perfectly suited for that. But no, my job wasn't physical at all. Airline mechanics is easy, lazy man's job.
Because it's a rumor that saying, well, you were so great partly because of your job as a mechanic.
Yeah, no, that's not true. Yeah, the reason I would say would be the fact that I was able to travel, and go to tournaments. But I wasn't out there wrenching and turning and doing hard. I wasn't a diesel mechanic. This airline mechanics mainly just need a pen and be able to document stuff.
Okay, well, I'm happy to help bust that myth. And what injuries have you had in this sport? Because a lot of newcomers are very worried about tearing a bicep or elbow injuries and such.
So I broke my elbow at the early age of 13 years old, and it really wasn't a torque like a typical arm break. You have the upper arms that adults typically hurt. This was a child injury. I think it was due to the fact that I was kind of in a stage of growth, and the forearm muscle basically pulled that elbow off the end of my arm from just the pressure of the forearm and that tendon. But it healed back stronger than ever, and I know many of people that have had their kids do the same thing, and I'm like, well, Devin, in fact, I think his son just recently did it, and he asked me about it. I said, your son's gonna probably kick your ass in 10 years because he'll be better for it, he'll be stronger for it. So.
I guess it's too late for me to do that, unfortunately.
But as I've gotten older, the injury that bothers me the most is the shoulder. I mean, I've had shoulder issues. When I was 21, 22 years old, I ended up throwing a softball like an idiot. I'm not a softball player, but I decided to play one year, and they threw me out in right field. Well, first ball was hit over my head. I went to the fence to grab it and tried to throw it in the infield, and I could hear something tear when I let it go. And 20 years later, then I had labrum surgery. I had tore it 20 years before and lived with it, but shoulders have seemingly the weak link for me as I've gotten older for the sport of arm wrestling.
And so the shoulder is nothing to do with arm wrestling? It was just from throwing that softball that day?
Throwing a softball that caused a labrum tear, which later I ended up getting fixed, but I really don't think that was the issue. I think what I've got is just repetition, arthritis, just old age issues in the shoulder, because the left one's feeling the same as the right.
Oh, interesting. So they both feel the same, despite
they both grind and are weak and hurt now. So.
And what about pain here in your brachialis, a small muscle? That's where I usually get pain.
If I overdo it, I still get that. But I know what you're experiencing. That's the normal toothache for the first 3, 4, 5 years of arm wrestling. You're going to have that. All the new beginners have a hard time combing their hair, after they've got done arm wrestling because of that muscle aching and the throbbing. But that'll eventually go away. But if you overdo it, I mean, if you arm wrestle hard and then don't rest enough and pull the next day or 2 days later, you can flare that up easy enough.
And what about your advice, the best, most efficient way to recover after practice? Is it ice, just rest?
I don't know. I've never really done the ice thing. I guess that's probably the proper way to heal up as quick as possible. But I would just go rest and just and rest enough. I mean, it's at least a week of rest period as you get more advanced. I mean, the early stages, you could probably arm wrestle every day, every other day if you're a young kid. But as you get more advanced and older, it's tough to not injure yourself about wrestling, and especially if you're trying to peak for a tournament. The tendons are unlike muscles. The tendons really take a long time, up to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to really harden and get back to full force again.
And who would be the strongest arm wrestler you face in your life? Who would you say?
That question's been asked me a bunch of times. Everybody's had their strengths in different areas. I mean, surely guys like Alexei Vovoda was super strong in the forearm and hand and had great pronations, but maybe not so much upper arm strength. Denis Saplinkov, super strong bicep. Richard Lupke's super strong tricep press, very unorthodox strength. And there's many others that have super crazy strength in a certain area. Which one was the overall scariest? I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, but Dennis probably ranks up there quite high. And, you know, there's guys even like Cleve Dean, who was 600-700 pounds. That was just a monster, natural monster. That was just very hard to deal with, just because of his size. He was so huge.
6'7", 400 pounds.
600-700 pounds, I think, at his peak. He was a big man.
Wow.
Monster of a man.
Yeah.
22-inch forearms, 23-inch
No
forearms.
way.
Yeah, no, big guy.
Wow. So these are like 17 at their biggest.
No, what are your upper arms? Yeah, that's what his lower arms like.
It's unbelievable. Wow. What about a non-pro? So have you ever had a newcomer just to show up to practice that like made you like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah. No. Yeah. But I've messed with the baseball players and the football players when that was going on, and those guys are all, you know, peak top athletes, and if you let them get in the position to really press on you and push on you, yeah, they're all very surprising. But ready, go, straight wrist. There's so many holes in their system, you know, because they weren't arm wrestlers. But yeah, no, you can find anybody that is going to be fairly strong in certain positions on the table, but they have to have the full package if they want to compete at a professional level.
Well said. Yeah, makes total sense. And how about any advice you would give to novices, people on the fence about getting into the sport?
Get with other novices, get with intermediate, pros even, doesn't matter, just get involved with the sport, get on the table, practice it, repetition. It's really the only way to get better at it. You're not going to get better by doing a bunch of lifts in the closet or at the gym. It really has to be associated with, along with the practice on the arm wrestling table. So, and the more different arms, the better. I mean, the bigger the group, the better you're going to be as an arm wrestler. It's like kind of almost like fighting. You just have to have that variety of the big, small, short, tall.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've been privileged here, Adam and I. At Pinellas, we've had all shapes and sizes come through, and of course, a lot of the pros have been willing to stop by and drop their knowledge, and we've been very lucky. Our club has been very privileged in that regard. Yeah.
And once you think you've seen it all, you're going to see something new.
I swear, yeah. I think when we eventually get Alex Kadesh over here, we're going to be very surprised.
Right.
Yeah. Well, not so much surprised after what's come with Hermes, but yeah, the largest arm wrestler we've had here so far has been Vitali.
Okay.
And with the longest fingers, biggest hand, just the biggest frame. But Kardashian, I guess, would be the next level above that even.
Right. Is Kardashian bigger than Vitali? Wow. If he is, I know he's thick. He seems thicker, but I didn't know he was taller. He's bigger.
Bigger person. 160 kg.
That's where arm wrestling's going now. You gotta be 7 foot and 300 plus pounds, or you're not gonna be competitive with heavyweights.
So they need their like own division, like how Thor and Eddie have, like a Titan division. You know? Because most of us are nowhere near that big.
Right.
And what's your current track record with your upcoming match with Devin? Like, what's the track record?
Devin and I really haven't pulled a whole lot throughout the years. We know of each other, and we've been competing in different events probably 20, 25 years, but we've only really competed maybe 2-3 times seriously against each other. So our track record's not very deep. But yeah. I'm looking forward to pulling Devin. Still at my age, I'm looking forward to pulling Devin because Devin he's probably the most knowledgeable and thinks about the sport, I think, more than anybody other than maybe him and Michael Todd. I mean, they're just obsessed with it, and there's nothing that gets by him. I mean, he's just a joy to arm wrestle because he analyzes everything.
I'm really looking forward to it, honestly.
Right hand measurement. Oh, look at lefty.
Whoa.
Lefty or righty?
That thumb is enormous. Look at that. My hands feel girly now. What the hell?
No, no.
Wow.
But do you see
small? Yeah, small compared to Levon, though, right? I mean, Levon's probably Levon's pinky.
Honestly, no. It's not far off. Levon's hand thickness, maybe like 10% more.
Yeah.
You're not far off, especially that thumb. What in the world?
All right. All that bowling I did when I was younger. No.
That's awesome. Is left the same?
Yeah, kind of the same. Pretty much the same. Not quite as big.
Yeah, it's still
Not
pretty
as,
thick.
not as thick.
It's the thickness that kills me. Yeah. Does it happen with age? Has it always been that thick?
It's gotten a little thicker as I've gotten
It's
older.
always been that thick because I remember 2006 shaking your hand. And I was like, oh my God, that's the biggest hand I've ever felt. Yeah.
It's unreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's being seen bony now. But guys, if you want to watch it, December 11th, there's a link below for the pay-per-view. Please support the event. And link above too. Tap that link I have just put there. And well, John, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Good luck to you too. It's Saturday, right?
Yes, sir. Brandon Allen.
Let's stay on the winning side.
Yes, sir. All right. And on that note, please follow John Brzenk on his YouTube channel. Subscribe. He does have an active channel. He is the GOAT after all. And then we will see you guys very soon at the event. Yeah.